Year's, we are going to batch film the general introduction video to the challenge and the start of my first 31-day painting. So it is technically December 31st right now in the afternoon. We're about to head home and celebrate New Year's Eve, but I have officially completed the background. We have gone for a nice dark green background for the tiger. So we're gonna do a tiger head profile on the canvas, and I'm going to record a time-lapse video of me talking through the process of what I'm thinking, what choices I'm making, how I'm feeling about time at different stages of the painting, all of that stuff. Starting, I don't know, I guess I'm gonna record the time-lapse footage from today if I get started, and then all day tomorrow, and then I'll probably voice over my thoughts in that video. Yeah, that's how we're gonna do it. But anyway, so we're gonna have some videos coming out. My goal is to post them every morning. We'll see how this goes. Maybe this is ambitious, but we're just gonna put it out into the universe and see if it sticks. But anyway, this is the intro for that. Now on to time-lapse. Okay, so the first few time-lapse videos I recorded, it was taking a picture every 10 seconds, and then I have slowed it down, and now I'm taking a picture every 1 second once we get to the January 1st. So basically what I'm doing at this stage of the painting is just blocking in the colors. You may have noticed that I had a lot of chalk on the canvas, so I always outline some key markers of the animal in chalk first, and those act as general guidelines. So when I do this next stage of blocking in colors, it's really easy to make a lot of progress quick, and it really helps get rid of the blank canvas. Oh yeah, I painted all the edges of the canvas, and I had to do that off screen so I could paint the bottom fur. I always like to kind of wrap my paintings around the canvas so that they don't need to be framed. It kind of saves on costs for the clients when they buy it. But I'm just working on building up those fur layers. So I'm working with the white, trying to get the edges, kind of the bottom part of the canvas, done first. With fur, it's kind of noticeable what direction you're painting it in your layers. So I always try and start with far away fur and then move like closer in the layers. So you kind of want to paint the fur that's further back first. This is kind of more important when I'm doing like a lot of layers when I'm painting. But yeah, so now I'm working up into the more orange color, and I paint with Liquitex transparent soft body paint. So I think I have a Filbert 10 brush. I'll write it on the screen if that's not correct. But yeah, and I basically work in creating white lines, or I use like other opaque soft body paint to do like lines of the fur. And then I use transparent paint to kind of color correct it to the right color so that you're not necessarily painting over all these details. You can just create transparent washes. And the best part about the Liquitex soft body paint, why I love it, is it's such like high pigmented paint. So you get a lot of color in a punch for doing a layer over top. And it's really hard to dilute it down enough that you wouldn't get that really bright color. So when I am painting, I always listen to audiobooks. I am currently going through the Wheel of Time series for the second time. First time I listened to it, I think it was like 2017 or so, but the TV show just came out on Amazon Prime, and the Wheel of Time is great. So I'm listening to, I think, the 5th book now. I always try and look for long book series when I paint, so if you have any good book suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment. I burn through books when I work. Sometimes there are business advice. I have a lot of podcasts I watch, listen to, I guess, and yeah. If you have any questions for me as well, feel free to drop them in the comments as well, and then I'll know what to talk about in these. But yeah, so now you can see I'm working on the nose. So the nose I'm actually blending with a bunch of tiny dots. So it's taking me a couple layers to go over and get the colors right. And then I kind of use a very washed out version of the color to do the dots that are kind of on the inside of the nostril. It's a little hard to see in the video of it, but you can see it if you're up close to the canvas. And yeah, so I do a whole bunch of little dots, and now I'm going and adding highlights over top of it to kind of really get that wet nose texture. And I find that painting dots works really well for things like elephant skin, noses. You know, it's good. Oh, now we're getting into the eye, which is super exciting. The eyes are my favorite part of every painting. Sometimes I start with the eye and paint it first. I don't know why I didn't necessarily for this one, but I've basically gone in and I've made a bunch of lines stemming out, and now I'm using those transparent washes to kind of color the inner rim a nice brown color, and then it also had some brown on one side, the right side there. So yeah, so now I'm just trying to get the shape of the eye right, and we're kind of knocking back some of the outer rim that's shadowed by the brow. Adding the highlights always the best part. You always want to add the glints underneath too, because that really brings in the moisture of the eye. And you can kind of see the lid shape at the bottom, how it's not a perfect circle. The lid kind of comes up a little bit. You really want to pay attention to stuff like that when you paint eyes, because if you have it perfectly circle, the animal will look either really surprised or alarmed. So it's really hard to kind of get the right facial expression, because very subtle changes in the eye shape make a huge difference when you're painting wildlife. On the positive note, I actually entirely changed this animal's eye from the reference image. So you can really change the animal's expression when you do little tweaks like this and kind of make them look a bit more like how you want. And it helps get the overall feel of the painting. So I was using a liner brush there, doing some of the, you know, in-depth details of the fur near the eye. And that's how I normally paint, but it's gonna take way too long if I were to keep painting all of the fur with that technique. So what I've actually done is smashed a old paintbrush, kind of grinding it into the table that I have beside me that I paint beside, and it kind of splays out the brushes. So keeping the paintbrush typically dry and then just the ends, having them with wet paint, you're able to make, you know, 3, 4, 5 brush strokes at once. You want to be really careful of this because they all kind of start and end at the same time. And if you kind of look in the area about by the ear, I don't really like how this is looking because there's kind of a splotch of paint and then the line. So it doesn't really look like one neat fur stroke. So it's not a perfect technique. I kind of angle the brush sideways to try and get it working a bit better for me. But it's a really good way to get a lot of fur on really quickly. And this is just an initial layer. So the things you want to pay attention to when you're painting fur is the length and the direction. If you get those two things right, it's really just a matter of layering after that point. So you really want to make sure that you're getting the proper length of the fur. So if it's really short fur, you want to start painting short fur from the beginning. And if it's longer fur, you want to paint longer fur from the beginning. So it kind of helps because you're building texture up right from the beginning. Now I've switched back to the liner brush. I just like it so much better. It's so much easier to have some control. And I like how you can really change the direction of the fur and have, yeah, it's just a bit more control. But it would take a long time to paint like this. Also at this point, I think it's getting quite late into the evening. I believe I've already taken a break for dinner at this point, and my husband called me and was like, how's it going? Because he saw that I didn't release the video until like 4 p.m. yesterday, like the general 31-day challenge video. So he knew it was going to be a pretty late night. We're renovating our house, and he's working on the house as well. So it's not like we're missing much, you know, there's the pandemic and all this stuff. So who needs social lives? We just paint a whole bunch. It's actually pretty fun. Because I did my master's that I graduated from 2 years ago, and a lot of other master students and friends will call me while I'm painting to, you know, kind of rant and touch base with where their projects are at. And it's fun because I'm like, because I've been there, I have a good understanding of the problems that they're going through, especially like with coding and Python and R code and all these stats that you have to do in biology. And it's fun because I can paint and talk and catch up at the same time. And it's great because a lot of students, you know, it's hard to rant to other grad students because everybody's so busy, but I can multitask, paint, and talk to people at the same time. So it's something that I personally really enjoy doing. So yeah, basically it's just layering. I think I'm going in with black now and adding some low lights just to provide a bit more contrast in a few different areas. And yeah, I think I added a little bit more highlights just at the front of the eye there. And at this point, I really didn't know what to do with the kind of shadow dark color at the chin, because it is a shadow, it's not necessarily like the coloration. So typically when I paint shadows, I add a lot more blue to them, but it's such a prominent, like closer part of the face. So I wasn't really sure what to do with that. So I didn't add as much orange to the highlight as I have in some other areas. It's kind of like a more muted orange, but it's still there. And how you get the layers with the black and white stripes is you want to make sure that there's more orange-white coming on the left edge, kind of where the fur direction's going, and then there's more black strands leaving the patch. So that kind of really helps define the edges of the fur when it transitions in different colors. And now we're adding whiskers. Whiskers are so intimidating because you really only have one shot at them. You'll see me kind of I've smudged one whisker in there where I hit it with my finger. And also at this point, my hand was quite sore. This is a lot of fur to hold a paintbrush like this. This is pretty much, this whole painting took about 13.5 hours. And whiskers are just such a nice finishing touch as soon as you get to the stage. It's super satisfying and enjoyable because you're really kind of wrapping up the painting and letting it lie where it is. So now you'll see I go back and I am cleaning up the whiskers with the dark color. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the extended time-lapse versions that I'm producing on YouTube. Hopefully some of the points I mentioned were helpful. I would love if you subscribed and support the small growing channel, and I will see you around the internet super soon. Oh, let me know in the comments if you have any animals I should paint.